Welcome to episode 10 of Breaking It Down with Jodi Marks. I'm your host, Jodi Marks, and today we will be talking about what it's like growing up as a Black woman. And we have three amazing women with us today that make up our amazing panel. We have Desiree Rew, Fadeke Oparinde, and Enid Croom. So hello, ladies, and welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you. First things first, I do this every show. Can you all just welcome to episode 10 of yourselves? So Fadeke, you'll start.
Hi, my name is Fadeke Oparinde. Thanks for having me back, Jodi. I'm half Nigerian. That's why my name is so fun and complicated. And I'm a singer and I'm a songwriter and I'm an actor. But right now I'm mostly just trying to survive this pandemic and keep my sanity.
Amen. Desiree?
Hello. And Jodi, thank you for inviting me back. My name is Desiree, and I am here in Long Beach, California, all the way from Baltimore, Maryland, with a little stop in between Charlotte, North Carolina. I am a social worker and a freelance writer, and I am a Black woman, unapologetically.
Yes, period.
All right.
And then Enid?
Hi, Jodi. Thank you for inviting me. I'm a first-time flyer, so thank you all for having me. I'm currently residing in Charlotte, North Carolina. I grew up in San Diego, California, but I was born in upstate New York. I am a retired Army service member of the Army Medical Corps.
Thank you for
I am also a social worker, currently working on an active ACT team. Working with serious mental illness, people with serious mental illness. And so that's something new for me, actually. It's a new thing for me. So I'm really excited about doing it. I've only been doing it for about a month.
That is new.
So, yeah, it's very new. So I'm happy to be here. A little tidbit about me, though. I do have a background in theater. I did that in high school. I went to performing arts high school. So it's one of my passions and loves. Theater is a big thing for me. And one of my other tidbit real quick is I have a son who has autism. He's on the autism spectrum. He's high functioning. So that is near and dear to my heart as well.
Yes, I have a cousin with autism. Yeah. Thank you for serving, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are brave. I'm just gonna say that. I have so much respect.
It was by accident too. It really
by
was.
Accident. Wait, I have to know the story. Wait, what do you mean by accident?
Yeah. I didn't intend to serve as long as I did. It just kind of happened to me. It really was by accident. And I found a calling. I had some really great leadership, and it was a place I never thought I'd be, really. The early recession, I'm older than I look. It was an earlier recession, and jobs were scarce. I lost my teaching job and I needed money to survive. And my dad's like, it won't hurt. And I was like, okay. And I made a career out of it.
You know, things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
They really do. I believe that. So first question, the second one. What was it like growing up as a kid for you? And did you ever have to deal with racism or discrimination at a young age? And if so, do you have any stories to share? Anybody? Desiree?
Well, I will say, let's see. Growing up, like I said, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore is a predominantly Black city. With over 80% of its residents and citizens that live in Baltimore City are Black. So growing up, I went to an all-Black high school, elementary, middle, high school, all Black. My neighborhood was Black. Where I shopped was Black. I didn't have a lot of interaction with non-African Americans growing up. So I didn't know that being Black per se was not good. I would say I knew it in general. There was absolutely conversations you have in the family about the state of the world, but growing up, everybody looked like me. My teachers looked like me, principals looked like me. Leaders in my community look like me. My mom worked for a historically Black college and university. She was a secretary, so college students look like me, college professors look like me. So growing up, Black was always great. And if I had any issues, it was just simply being a teenager and always trying to fit in and figure that part out.
Just the normal life,
normal human development, but at no time that growing up before college, that I feel that I was in a place that I wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah. Do you think that helped you, especially, I guess, when you saw, like, when you were like in a melting pot, I guess you could say, or by predominantly like white people? Did you feel like, oh, I should have been around them like sooner?
Well, I think it helped me in that I was defined before I got into the melting pot, because the melting pot was not accept. I was in a place different that I wasn't supposed to be. And so
do you think that helped you, especially
into it, I may have come out differently, but I was already good with who I was as a Black person.
Like white
I wanted to have longer hair. Like, I wanted to be,
oh, I should have been around them like sooner.
I wanted different clothes. I wanted a car. I didn't have a car. You know, it helped me in that I was defined. I was never before I never got into the ashamed about being Black. So I was being thrust into the pot, actually experiencing sort of the things that people said that the world was like was difficult. But had I not grown up the way that I did, it would have been different.
Oh, I was in Burbank, so melting pot, and I can tell you, identity crisis, honey.
Yeah.
Identity crisis. You don't know who you are, who you're supposed to be. Yeah. So yeah, you don't. You really don't. Yeah. Like, you're like, how am I supposed to fit in this world when these people are like telling me I'm supposed to be one thing as a Black woman, but to fit into society, they're basically telling you to scrap everything and not be yourself. That happened at a young age. Fadeke, do you have anything?
Well, you know, I'm from Chicago, and Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the US, and I grew up in a very white area. So I went to a predominantly white school. Everywhere I turned was white. So I sort of grew up being other. And when you're in that like white world, because that's pretty much how it was just all white. And you have like your friends and you grow up and you're young like that. You see color. Like, obviously I knew I was Black. I was told I was Black. I mean, my name was Fadeke. I was different from most of those kids. And I think I said this in one of the other episodes where like the white girl was like, everyone put your hands like this. And she was like, white, white, white. Then she said, flip them over. And she was like, white, white, Black. And I was like, oh my God, that was like a shock for me at the age of 5. But I remember like going to like sleepovers and like going swimming with my friends and stuff. And like my hair wouldn't like react obviously the same way as their hair. So they would like touch my hair and be like, oh my God, why does it feel like that in water? Do you need a pillow? Like, it's so like cushy. And I was like, this is so like weird. And it just sort of, it separates you from everyone else. And that was an interesting experience. And because I just never really felt like I fit in. And then like when you get older and people start like dating and liking each other and stuff, I wasn't really included in that part because people didn't really like the girls that looked like me. And I was really of only like 1 or 2 people in my grade who were like Black girls. It was a mess. And then for some reason, randomly, one of the Black boys like just hated me. And I was like, but we're all Black. We're supposed to like stick together. That's how my mom raised me. So I was like, yo, why aren't you why don't you have my back, man? Because when they talk about you, I got your back. But like, oh, it was a journey with all.
That's a thing though. It's like black women are really just for the community. We have everybody's back. But then when it comes around to protecting the Black woman,
throw us under the bus.
Just some men are just like, I wouldn't date that, or and you're just like, what? But we protect you. Can't you have the same love? I don't understand that. I never have. and I don't think I ever will, because it's something in our own community that happens. And I don't even know. Enid, do you have anything?
Sorry about that. My husband was down here fixing the light. It was distracting. I didn't want to be rude. Sorry.
Oh, good.
I grew up in San Diego, and San Diego at the time when I grew up, it was transitioning. So I kind of had to transition with it. My family was transitioning from a military. My mom was in the Air Force, my dad was in the Navy. And I had to transition with that. And at the time, San Diego was becoming this huge military community. So for me, I wasn't a military brat or anything like that. I didn't have that experience. But so it was all the transitions as a community. I'm a lot older than look. I'm in my 50s. So at the time I know, growing up in San Diego, all the shifting with the migration of people that were coming in from the military and the shifting of cultures and it was very interesting to see, because where we lived, and initially we lived in Coronado Island, it was predominantly white, but I was really young then, so I wasn't really going to school. But by the time I became school age and we moved closer to like IB, and then we moved to Chula Vista, and then we moved to Bonita, and then we moved again, it was like, it was more mixed. There was a huge Hispanic population. We called it Hispanic then, and now it's Latinx. It's all these terms I'm trying to come to terms with. But for me, it was different. It was so many different groups of people, but we were all trying to figure it out because we were all kind of thrown together. And it was one of the first times when people started getting thrown together. So for me, it was me trying to figure out, okay, well, everyone was groups, and where did I go and what did I supposed to do? Because I spoke fluent Spanish at the time, and I spoke fluent Japanese at the time. And for me, it's like, where did I fit? Because I could fit with you because I spoke your language. I could fit with you because I look like you. I could fit with you because I spoke your language. So for me, I was an outlier. I was the exception and not the rule. And I think that's kind of why my buddy asked me to come to this talk, because I've always been that person. I've always been the exception and not the rule, because I do speak the different languages and I am a little bit different. I'm different in my own community. I've always been a different child. I skipped the 3rd grade. I'm a member of Mensa, and I look like this. So for me, my experience as a child was always a little bit different, because as a young Black girl, you're not supposed to be smart. You're not supposed to be clever. You're not supposed to be able to speak somebody or learn somebody's language quickly. But for some reason, I was able to do some things that I'm not supposed to be able to do. And in a time where things were transitioning so quickly in a city that was growing so rapidly. And I think for me, it gave me a little bit of a complex, because it gave me this feeling that, not that I was inadequate, but that I should be embarrassed to be smart, or I should be like hesitant and reserved about my intelligence and about my abilities. And I kind of held back, and I tried to dumb down myself sometimes, because I thought that there was something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And yeah, I find that's wild to me, because I definitely know some cousins, that have gone to school, and they definitely like, I can't raise my hand. And I'm like, why not? They're like, well, because I might get made fun of. And I'm like, but you're at school. Like, you should be doing that. But they're like, oh, well, it'll become something else. And I'm like, when is it, like, when do kids become like so mean at times? Like, you know what I mean? Or they realize, like, when did you realize that you might have been smarter than everybody else? Or maybe like Fadeke said, like, when you realize you were different. Because it's like, we all are born and we all don't know color skin. You know what I mean? Like, we're just like with our friends, like just having a blast. And then the next thing you know, it's like something racial, like Fadeke said, which is like, they're like, oh, white, black. And you're just like, where'd you learn that? Like,
sorry.
All five. Why do you do that?
5. And why can't you be the smart one? You know what I mean? Like, why are little girls like labeled like that? Like, oh, we're just there.
Right.
You know, for me, my experience was so different in that, because I think growing up in a predominantly Black situation, school, church, family, friends, for us, our teachers basically told us being smart wasn't a choice. It was almost like they were preparing us for the world that we didn't know. So we were expected to be smart.
Right.
We were expected to be assertive. It was almost like a training ground. And maybe we didn't appreciate it at the time because we didn't get it, but our teachers, I can specifically remember conversations where the teachers my teacher basically saying, your personality is not going to be enough. You're going to have to study, Desiree, because you're going to have to do more than the next person. And I was like, no, I don't. But that was the thing. So for me, entering into the world as a confident, assertive Black woman, not afraid to raise her hand, basically afraid to keep it down, how the world took that in was, for me, I was not prepared for that. I wasn't prepared for the reaction. I thought I was being prepared to be equal, right? And then when I get into the world, what I was taught was equal was really looked down upon. So I didn't know, I had to learn, I didn't know how to be any other way, but raise my hand, go to the front, speak up, stand up straight, stare people in their eyes, shake their hands firm. These are things I've been learning always. So it was so different. Like, you couldn't pretend to not be smart. You had to be smart.
Now this was that way at home, school, church, everywhere for you. See, at me, where I'm from, that was for me at church and at home. That was the way it was at church and at home for me. But at school and in the community, it was there's that gray area where it was like, wow, that's cute. Wow, that's amazing. Wow, look at her. Wow. But at home and at church, you better be, you gotta be, you gotta do, you better be, right. Not to go outside the door. You represent me. You're representing the family. Right. Y'all know.
Yeah.
Y'all know. You're representing me when you walk out that door.
That's across the board. That definitely is like honed into you. Like, okay, they might be acting a fool, but you don't.
You don't,
like,
right.
You know what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to go to school. You better do your studies. Like, I don't care what those other children are doing, but when you come here, you show me your report card, you better have all A's. You better know, and I commend parents, like, especially when raising a Black child or woman or boy, like, instilling that in us, because they know when you go into the real world, it's not, people aren't going to be rooting for you like they're rooting for you.
Right.
People are going to be trying to tear you down.
Right.
Yes. And it's like, if you do accomplish something, they'll be like, oh, she's smart for a Black girl. Oh, she's well educated, or oh, she's well spoken for a Black girl. I'll be like, no, I'm well educated because I educated myself. Thank you very much. Like, it's not because I'm a Black girl. It's because I'm me.
Right.
That's how and I hate that. They always try to stereotype us and say, always put the because she's a Black woman in front, because in everything, it's even in your careers, have you guys found in your careers that you've had to like maybe like jump through extra hurdles just to get to where you are, or even to be heard?
Every day. Every day. It's always for me. As I said, that I can think back the span. I've been a social worker for 30 years. When I was a young social worker, it was, you're too young and you don't really know yet, because I always showed up confident, willing to learn, but I was confident. When I became and just throughout my life, in my career, people have just always sort of said to me, you need to slow up. You need to step back. Karen is intimidated by you. I try to get promotions. I raise my hand and I want to know about the fellowship program. And I read that this company has this leadership program. How do you get a part of it? Where'd you read that? On the company website. Oh, well, yeah, we'll have to see. So my being ambitious has been, I had to learn how to tone that down to make other people comfortable. So I've always been through a hurdle. Oh my gosh. Did my whole thing just, I can't see anybody. Can you see me?
We can see you.
Okay. Well, I can't see you, but I will keep talking. So yes, I've had to jump through lots and lots of hurdles, but I've just learned. I've learned to figure out where the potholes are, slow up where necessary, speed up where I need to, but the destination has never changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fadeke, do you find that in being an actress, have you had trouble, like just getting in the room?
Yeah, well, I'm not far out of college, but I feel like it's the same theme, is that I walk into the room and all they can see is a Black girl. And the people behind the table don't have or claim to have the imagination and say that they can cast colorblind and things like that. But at the end of the day, all of these older, usually white men, are programmed in their head to just see me as this Black woman, and they can't look at me as just a blank slate. Whereas I feel like with most, like pretty much any other ethnicity, they can sort of see as having other like dynamics. And I'm really just like one sort of character. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm. I felt that on auditions.
Yes, yeah. And also I feel like with that, trying to always, because like I'm taller, I'm darker, I feel like I had to always present myself in a way that was more palatable for them. So like my hair is straight, mind you, I do also just like wearing my hair straight because I like to flippity flip because I'm a fake hair wearer. That's just in my blood. But no, the way I present myself, the way I talk to them, the way I even walk in the room, I try to give off a more bubbly vibe, which is the same way I act towards the police. So like, I don't know what that means.
Okay, we're gonna get into the police, but real quick, you do that too, because I have a trick, and I'm just gonna tell everybody now because it's just gonna be out there.
Tricks.
Whenever I look at the monitor, and the person opening the door for you saying, "Oh, here, you're next," I will crack a joke and make them laugh. So then they're laughing, and then I'm like, "Ha ha ha! See, I'm friendly. I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat. I'm not." Or I seem like, "Oh, she's bubbly. We can work with her. She doesn't have an attitude." Yeah. Or, "Oh, we can work with her. She's not sassy. Like she won't give us lip because the monitor likes her. They're laughing. They're kikiing it over there. Like she's gonna be a fun time to work with." And I've actually had people tell me that. Like I'll book something, and they'll be like, "Right when you walked through the door, you were so friendly. You were laughing and you were talking nice and da-da-da." And I'm like, "See, because I made you feel like I made you feel comfortable." Is because you're like, "Oh, that Black girl, she's okay. We'll work with her. She's okay."
Yeah.
Every single time. I do it all the time. No matter where I go. I'm like, how do I make them feel comfortable?
I find myself like skipping in almost, like I'm like on my toes almost, just like it's so ridiculous and it's low-key embarrassing to actually say this, but I come in, I'm like, "Hi, I'm Fadeke," and I like make my name sound so white. Like, I mean, I am code switching because my name is so ethnic. So I'm just like, hi, I'm Fadeke Oparinde. And yeah, I'm half Nigerian. That's why my name is so fun. I literally said that at the top of this because it just came to me one time in an audition because I was like, that's a nice little icebreaker. And then they all laugh and then they're all just comfortable and they're like, oh my gosh, tell me more.
Why do we do that? Why do we always feel like we have to make people feel comfortable?
I feel like
we have to make people feel comfortable because we have to. Mm-hmm. Because it's necessary.
Yeah.
But it's like I shouldn't have to.
But you do though. You shouldn't, but you do, and that's why we do it. And because we have to.
And everybody does it. Yeah. Like Desiree, you said what? You just did it, right?
I do it every day because I have to. Because I do have to work. And in order for me to make the differences, get to the tables where I feel like I can make change, I have to do that. And so I do it. I don't necessarily show up bubbly. Sometimes I show up and it's not bubbly, but I eventually read the audience and I get to where I need to be. But because I'm I'm a social worker, so I'm definitely on the emotional side, but I also have an MBA, so I'm definitely on the business side of things. Mm-hmm. So when I go into a meeting, I want to get down to business. And when the meeting is over, I want you to tell me how you felt about that. So sometimes I have to switch it up to make people comfortable because I want to be in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. So we do it because we have to.
Yeah. Enid, you actually did it. You were saying, you did it at a young age, making people feel comfortable just because you didn't want to raise your hand or show that you were smarter. That's making people feel comfortable.
All the time. I do it all the time now. I dumb myself down to make myself approachable. And I tell my son actually held me accountable. My 10-year-old son held me accountable on that. He says, Mommy, I don't know why you're doing that. You need to just be yourself. And I was like, what? The lessons that my 10-year-old autistic son, high functioning autistic son said this to me. And I was just like, I was caught. He said, Mommy, you just need to be yourself. He says, Mommy, I know it's okay. You tell me it's okay. And I don't even know, I don't even remember the conversation, but he told me, he's like, Mommy, why do you do that? Because he caught me explaining myself and holding back and trying to explain something. So Mommy, just say how you always say it. Don't have to explain, just say it. And he was right. I just needed to just say it how I normally say it with my big words that I use. Because to me, they're normal words, but to other people, they're not normal words. And my husband always gets me for using them too, because he thinks that I'm talking white, but I'm not talking white. These are the words I was taught to use, and these are the words I understand to use, so I use them. And what is this? It's not, they don't have a monopoly on the language. If we learn the words, we use them, and we were taught to use them. My mom is an educator. She taught me to use them, so I use them. This is the one thing I have an issue with us as a people in the community, is that we think that it's talking, we don't have an autonomy on a language. Nobody does. With the English language, we're taught to use the language of English, and it is what it is. Just like Japanese language, and it's a set of characters, and you understand them, and you learn them, and you read them, and you speak them. Just like any other language, it's all the same. There's no particular group of people that have an autonomy on that particular language, and it belongs to them. Okay? If you learn it, then it belongs to you. You own it. You have ownership of it. So there's no Black language. This is my personal philosophy. I don't know. You can tell me what Black language is. What's Black language? You guys tell me what it is.
I don't think, you're right. I don't think there's a Black language, but I feel like it's been so stereotyped, right, that the Black person talks this way. That's why what I was saying when they're like, oh, you sound educated. Or
Sound Black, but
exactly.
Speaking Black. But somebody told me you don't speak Black. I said, there's no such thing. I speak English. Now I can use slang language, and I can use language that may sound like it's some kind of slang or something like that, but I'm still speaking English in a slang language that may sound more like something you associate with a Black ethnicity, but that doesn't mean it's a Black language, because I got young white kids in my neighborhood here, and my next door neighbor uses it more than I do and speaks that way more than I do. That doesn't make me any less Black or him more Black because he speaks that way, or it doesn't make you more or less Black because you speak that way. It's just the use of a language. I just remember having a conversation with a friend about this, and it's a very interesting concept, because to me, language is something you use to communicate, and communication is very important. It can save your life, literally. So when it comes to you being a person of color and using a mode of communication and using it to make your point or to make change, then you should be able to use it in a way to finesse your way through a situation. And if you're not able to do that appropriately, then you need to find another way. And to use language in a way and attach colorism to it is a bad thing, I think. So I don't know, I guess that's my soapbox. I don't know.
Well, I think that I think we have some cultural words that I wouldn't identify them as Black language, but that it's words and phrases that are predominant in our community, that has been transferred and translated through our music. When somebody says, "Oh, she's fat," like you think big hips and wide. You don't think when a man says a Black woman is fat or got a fat,
right?
It's not a negative thing. Like, yeah, I got a little fat. Right. So that is a cultural thing. It's you could call it slang, you could call it, but it is that. Phrases like, "Oh, she's showing off." Showing off can be depending on how you say it. It's good or it's bad. But I think that some of that language is cultural. When I say it, you know what I mean. When I say it and I'm in a room full of white people, white women, they say, "What is showing off? What does that mean?" Right. So there is some truth to some of the cultural isms and phrases that we use. But I agree with you that there is only one language, and it is English, and we all speak in it. And so until we're not. And then when we're not speaking English, we're speaking another language.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we're all speaking English. But I am from a family of slang users and cultural sayings. So I feel like I speak two languages well. And maybe English is my second language. And I'm okay with it. I'm totally okay with it.
But Enid, when you were talking about how, sometimes you'll find yourself wanting to I guess dumb down your vocabulary. What I wanted to say is most white people won't even realize what you're saying. They're the ones that need to go educate themselves. You know what I mean? They'll be like, wait, what does that mean? I found, especially in college, if I would use a big word or something in an essay or something. My first college, I went to an actual university. The other one was a performing arts school. I didn't have to use big words there, but that's the point. But when I was giving reports and everything, some people would be like, what? They would not know what I would they just don't know. A lot of people aren't educated like that. So I think it's something to be have pride in, that
right.
You did that.
Right.
That's yours, and no one can take that away from you.
Right. Well, now that I'm older, it doesn't bother me as much, except for what my husband says.
Use big words on him and give to the
work in progress. He's like, because he'll be like, what do you say? Why don't you just talk regular? And I'm like, I am talking regular. But all joking aside, it doesn't bother me anymore. But it used to when I was younger, it really did, because like I said, my mom's an educator, so I had no choice but to learn her way. Trust me.
Mhm.
Trust me. You don't want to hear that.
And give
Chancla
to the work in progress.
Like come around and just
see the
chancla around the corner. Like I am talking regular.
telling you.
But
oh man,
all joking aside, it doesn't bother me anymore. But it used to when I was.
I didn't do anything right. Ooh, parents have tactics. You know, they really do. So another thing, like, do you guys remember the first time you ever had to have the talk about police brutality or give the talk yourselves? Fadeke, have you ever had the talk?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel like I was like 7 or 8. And I'm not even sure if something actually like happened or if they were just giving me this talk. But I remember my mom and dad telling me that when I started driving, they're like, if you ever get pulled over, you know, the way you speak to the officer, it's yes, sir, no, sir. And because we were in such white areas all the time, my mom was like, and if the police is ever talking to you and you're with like your white friends and stuff, and if they start like talking back to the officer, you don't do any of that mess because you're the one that'll end up in trouble and they'll be fine. She's like, so you always respect the officer. And I was like, oh, okay. So I always knew it in my head because I grew up with it from such a young age. And like, I really don't even remember how old I was when I got that talk. But I'm pretty sure I got the talk like multiple times throughout like my childhood. Oh, and then also my mom would tell me that when I was walking through like department stores and things, she's like, she'd say, get your hands out of your pockets. And I'm like, oh my God, what? It's cold. And she's like, no, she's like, it'll look like you're stealing. And I'm like, I'm not stealing anything. She's like, I know, but they won't think that way. And I was like, oh, wow. Stuff like that really happens still. And then like, you see now we grow up with everything that's happened. And I was like, wow. Crazy.
I grew up in the era of officer friendly, so I was had crossing guards.
Right.
In our neighborhoods were neighborhood cops. You know, they would come around and you see them at school and they'd be out there to make sure we got across the street okay. So I didn't grow up with an aversion. I didn't ever plan on being a criminal, so I didn't feel like I needed to be averse to the police. And I always have seen the police as the people that protect me. 911 is the number I know, and I will call it if I feel necessary. And I have a son, he's 25, and I have a grandson who's 1. And I don't believe I've ever had the conversation with my son more so because he didn't drive, he wasn't driving as a teenager. It was more or less, you just stay on the right road and never have to meet the police. Let's just do that. Like that's the thing. Let's just not have to have any interaction, period, with the police. Just always be on the right side of right. And we know that sometimes that even you can be on the right side of right and still have a bad interaction. I think as my son probably got into his late teens, early 20s, you know, we have had a discussion that he has led. And what he has decided, what he needed to do in situations and how he was going to respond. So I didn't have to say, you know, give him that great advice. Other than listen, if you just do the right thing, you should be. Just the police should never even have to know your name. But he, you know, just seeing how things are going in the world, pretty much told me these are the things that I really know that I have to do because I want to be safe. And my son is a lot like me. He's a little bit of a spitfire. So if he has decided that I need to be calm, then he gets it. He knows he needs to be calm. Mm-hmm. But I didn't grow up averse to the police. And so it's, you know, when I see the egregious things that happen, and because I know police officers personally, you know, in my friendship circles, I see it as the bad apples versus an entire department. But not to negate that there are some systematic issues in policing. Absolutely.
I'm the same way. Growing up, like my dad was a police officer. So obviously I'm not going to view my dad as like, you know, like this man who's shooting people. You know what I mean? Like it's just not good. And then so I didn't ever view the police as somebody bad. I always viewed them like you, like they're there to help. But I will say in instances like Burbank, the police are very like they got nothing to do. So it was like if you get pulled over, it's like 5 cop cars for like one ticket. And there's this thing in Burbank that if you jaywalk, you get a ticket. Like they really got nothing else to do. Like that's literally what it is. So there'd be those instances where like because I lived across the street from my high school. So there'd be those instances where like I'd be like, I gotta go. Okay, like here we go. Like, and you would see people literally getting pulled over by the police and giving like jaywalking tickets. And I'm like, y'all have nothing better to do at a 7 a.m. like time frame when we are just trying to go to class and learn. Like that's when I would get like annoyed with the police. But I feel like I didn't really start seeing the police as like really like a negative until I saw all the bad stuff like happening, you know, and the killings. And then I started thinking, oh no, they're like you said, there are bad apples. Not everybody, because I have cousins that are police, but there are definitely people that are in the police station that are prematurely in there that they need to do some growing and some soul searching before they strap on a gun and take responsibility for that. That's my take on that one.
Right. Okay.
I think police need to go have a longer education behind it, or like before they can become police, maybe do some diversity classes, you know, learn about different cultures, just all the above. Cause but I don't think I'm just like you. Like I've definitely have instances with police. Like I've only been pulled over once, but it was in Maine, and in Maine I'm already the only really Black person there. And I had 2 of my white friends in the car, and I was a DD, and they were completely drunk. So obviously they're not caring what the police officer's saying. They're just blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, be quiet. Like, I am the one driving. I am the one getting you to just leave. Like, come on now, just work with me. The police officer's like, where are you going? And the only reason I was pulled over is because Maine is too dark and you need your high beams on. That's the only reason. Everything else is fine. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm the GD, you know, going to a party. He's like, what party? And I was like, oh, I'm going to give you all the information because I'm not going to jail. I'm not the one. So I said, this one. He proceeds to tell me that's not a thing. He's like, that's not an address. He like walked to his car and walked back. He said, that's not an address. I said, Waze is telling me different. It's telling me to make a left, make a right. Like it's literally saying, and then he tries to like tell me like, well, and then he spins it and he's like, well, you know, if you go to this party, like you're going to get arrested. Like, and I was like, whoa, it like escalated too quick. Like, it was just like, I told him like, no, that's an address. And then the next thing I know, it's, well, you're going to get like arrested if you go and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, and I've never seen that because obviously like with my dad, like he was such a joker, you know, and he never like was like that with me or like in my face like that. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like, I've never had police like be like that with me. Or in New York with me and Fadeke, like we got stopped at one of the metro turnstiles and they separated us. And I'm like you, Desiree, I have a mouth sometimes. Like, I know my rights. And she was like, show me your ID. I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't have to show you any identification. And she was like, well, we're going to separate you. And like, takes Fadeke away. And I'm like, Fadeke, know your rights, girl. Like,
yeah. So in New York, we were at the turnstile and a friend of mine like doubled behind me. So I like paid and walked
without you knowing, it was so bad.
And the cops like apparently watched this from I don't even know where. And they were like, hold up, stop. What are you doing? No, you can't do that. And I was like, what? And they were like, no, what's happening? Why did you do that? And I'm like, well, like, I think his card is somewhere. I don't know. And they're like, no, show me your IDs. And I'm like, what's happening? They're like, no, you're getting a ticket. And I'm like, for what? I pay for this every like month. And he's like, no, you can't do that. You can't just like break the laws and blah or whatever things. And I'm like, I literally see kids like jumping over this thing. And I'm like, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. But they were these two Black cops. And I could tell they were just like sort of being really hard on me and my friend. Cause Jodi was like, they seem like rookie cops. And I'm like, I don't know what kind
This woman seemed like she wanted
so intense. But I remember when I was separated from everyone, I was like, oh, and you start like praying to Jesus a little bit. But I was cracking jokes with that lady too, because she was like, how tall are you? 5'6"? And I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, spot on. Good on you. And yeah, we were just like kikiing, or I was trying to kiki, but she was trying to act all tough. But when people have like a facade up and they're like trying to, and I was not like, I was just really chill about it. But it was so annoying. And I was like, I just feel like you're doing this just to like, I don't even know, like seem like you're this hard ass cop or something. And it was just so annoying and so unnecessary because it's freaking New York. There's probably real crime happening and you're like messing with me over a turnstile.
Yes. I remember when they put you up against the wall and she made me walk so far away. Like, I was like, just because I know my rights, you want me away from my friend? Like, it was weird. I was like, and then I remember calling my dad right away, being like, what's the rights, Dad? What's the gist? And being like, get Fadeke, come on now, tell Fadeke everything she needs to know. He was like, I got you.
Yeah, the guy that like doubled up behind me, paid for it. And I was like, this is so stupid. Like, this is literally the dumbest thing ever. It's so annoying. But no, I never had like a bad experience with cops besides like that, which really wasn't, it was just really annoying. But because like my mom had friends who were cops and like there were a few people just like around us who were nice and friendly. So it was always with my mom, it was like, it only takes one, and it could just be that instance where you're with that one bad one. And I don't want you to like be seen on the news for anything bad happening to you, because at the end of the day, like I'm a pretty like unnerved person, so guns in general freak me out. So like the fact that people are just walking around with like guns scares me like more than it probably should. So seeing just police, I'm like, hey, how you, because you have a gun, that's scary. So I'm just gonna keep it as light as possible and keep it pushing. My whole feel with Popo. I tried to tell a police officer the Popo once because I worked at the airport. Sorry to like really just, I'm going with it. It's a funny story. He was so I used to work at LAX for Clear with the biometrics. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's the craziest thing. And when you're at LAX, you're always seeing like celebrities and stuff. So like Sheila E. was there one time and I was like, oh my God, Sheila E. So me and this other cop, he was like, did you see Sheila E.? And I was like, yeah. And then like, we would like kiki and stuff. We were all buddy. And I was like, what's your name? And he was like, oh, I'm Officer blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you the Popo? He's like, no. And I was like, let me not call him the Popo because again, he's got a gun. So
he called you out. He said, no.
He said, don't call me that. I was like, oh.
You're like, I thought we were kikiing it, but we weren't friends like that.
Friends, but But he did come in handy that one time. We were kikiing, and then this really drunk guy like peed on the floor while he was waiting. Girl, it is crazy there. I'm so glad I don't work there anymore.
Enid, I have a question. Okay, Enid, I have a question. So
Sure.
have you and your husband talked about giving your son the talk, or is it different because of his autism?
Yeah, that's the thing. Explaining things to Sebastian is, his name's Sebastian. You kind of have to, he has to be ready to receive it too. And even if we explain it to him, I might have to explain it to him a year later, 10 years later. He's 10, but sometimes he's like 6. So let me go back. We actually, last summer, we had an incident with a police officer. I had my son in the car and his friend Jaden. And we were at a right turn. We were going to the park, and we were at a right turn, and where there's a right green or red arrow. There's a lot of these places, and Desiree knows about these things in Charlotte where they have, it's like a no turn on red. Okay.
Mhm.
But this wasn't one of those particular intersections. Okay. So the light turned red, but I had the green arrow to turn right. But there was an FDS van going this way. You guys know what FDS is, right? A crazy, fanatical, religious sect that kidnap women and families and take them away from their families and stuff. On the left of me, okay? And I thought this police officer was following him. This police officer stopped, actually pulled me over the side, thinking that I ran the red light and did not follow the FTS van. Now, everybody knows the FTS vans pick up and kidnap families, okay? And he pulled me over after he saw me in the car with these boys for supposedly running the red light and did not follow the FTS van. They're white vans. They have locks on the inside of the doors. They don't have handles. They're like, the vans are like remade and reshifted, okay?
Oh my God.
And they have little letters on the things. The letters are really small on the vans, say FTS. So I saw the van, so I thought he was following the van, right?
As he should.
So as my arrow turned green, I am turning to go to the park with my son, and I'm looking at the cop going, oh man, there's something going on there. To myself, of course. And I'm turning, and he leaves from behind the FTS van, turns on his lights to go follow. I'm thinking he's turning on his lights to pull over the FTS van. So I'm making sure I'm turning to the right anyway to get out of all the way the drama that's about to occur. Because I'm thinking there's drama about to occur over there. No, he's coming over to pull me over. And I'm like, sir, what happened? And he's like, you turned illegally. I'm like, I did what? So I said, well, no, the light turned, the arrow, I had a green arrow. I'm absolutely positive I had a green arrow. I think you're incorrect. And he goes, well, license registration. No. I said, okay, no problem. And he was really angry. And I'm like, I said, well, yeah. I said, how's your day going, officer? And I'm very, and like I said, I was retired military at the time. You know, police officers don't scare me. I usually have a really good relationship with them. Usually when they see me in military ID, there's a lot of respect and camaraderie going on generally. But for some reason, he was a little agitated at me or something because I said, oh, no, hey, man, you know, whatever. I don't know what his issue was, but I gave him my driver's license, my registration, everything. And on my driver's license, it actually says veteran on it. And usually once they get it and they see it, and they're cool, not this particular guy. So he was just really snarky. And he walked back to the car and checked everything out. He came back. He says, well, since I see you have a good driving record and everything, this time I'm going to let you go. And I'm like, well, wait, I thought you said I ran the light. Did I run the light or didn't I run the light? I wasn't worried about my driving record. You weren't pulling me over for my driving record. You pulled me over because I ran the light. And he was, did I run the light? Did you look at your camera? Because he said he ran the camera. So apparently he refused to tell me whether or not I ran the camera. So what happened was I didn't run the light. He was wrong. He didn't admit he was wrong, and he missed the FTS ban, which is what he should have done. And I brought that to his attention. Because he missed out on getting the FTS van because he wanted to cite me. Okay. So he got an attitude with me from the initial conversation when I said, oh, no. I said, oh, man, no, it was a green arrow. Like right away. And I was so nonchalant about the way I was responding to him because to me, it was like, oh, it was a mishap. You know, he just you saw what had happened. You saw that the regular light had turned red, but you didn't notice that it was a green arrow. And I said, did you check out the FTS van? And he got so snarky with me because when he got the call, apparently, I found this out. The reason why I know all this is because my neighbor's a cop, and he told me about the incident. And I found out the whole shtick from him. And then he missed out on the whole call that they did have the ETS ban and the gathering and the whole thing. And there was a whole sting that happened, and there was the whole human trafficking
Messed up
mess that happened here in Charlotte that week. And he messed up. So, long story short, my son and his friend were in the car, and I was really upset by the whole thing because he had me there for a whole 10 minutes for no reason. He was supposed to give me my driver's license and my registration back, and he's sitting there just looking at me. I said, so did I or not? Am I free to go? Why are you still standing there looking at me like you're crazy? Like, so what's going on? Am I free to go? And he's still holding my documents. And I'm like, what? You know, mind you, I still have the boys in the back seat of the car. You know, they're watching. Thank God there's a DVD playing and they have headphones on. And I'm like, what's going on? I was like, is there anything else I can help you with? He goes, well, I'm still thinking. I said, what is there to think? What is there to contemplate? Is everything going on? I kid you not, was my experience. Mind you, with my autistic son in the backseat of the car and his friend. And I'm like, what is there to think about? I said, hey man, what's going on? I said, what's going on? Is everything okay? And I'm trying to see if everything's okay with him, because maybe he's having some kind of issue or medical problem or something, because it can happen. You know, maybe he's having some kind of aneurysm or something. I don't know. Because he was just standing there staring like straight ahead without responding to me, without saying anything. So I said, hey, man. And I said it again, and he finally responded. He says, right here, you can go. And I was like, okay, so I did this whole Facebook Live about it, and I got upset and I got emotional. And I was like, I think it was all about a power thing, because he didn't like the fact that I had said something to him that, number one, he was wrong. When I initially said it, I wasn't saying it to embarrass him. I was just telling him, oh no, man, it was a green arrow. You know, it really was a green arrow. I'm sorry, you know, maybe you didn't see it or whatever, you know, in his mind, he was like, I didn't see it, but I was just saying, you didn't see it. It was a green arrow. It was no big deal. You know, you don't have to get all bent out of shape over it. It was no big deal. But in his mind, because they are trained to program to always, once they make a decision, to carry out whatever decision they make to the very end of its resolution. And I am trained in the same manner. So I wasn't going to sway from my understanding of my situation and what I was doing, even with my kid in the back, but I wasn't going to put him in harm's way or anything, but to stand on the right side of right, as Desiree was saying, because he was detaining me and holding me up from taking these kids to the park. And we were on a timeline, and for no reason other than having the ability to be able to do so. And because of the nature of his position in his job. And when I got on my Facebook Live, I had to share that with my friends and family, because it irritated me, because there's quite a few close friends of ours who are in the police force here in Charlotte and in South Carolina and in the sheriff's department. And they were really upset by my post, because they know me and they know that that's not called for. And one of them is a trainer for the police department here in South Charlotte. And he called me after my Facebook Live was over, and he came and he interviewed me, and he took me to the South Carolina Police Department, and I had to give my story about the incident. And he used me as an example of what not to do. I wasn't a threat. I was talking to them. There was no level of respect given one way or another for me or the officer, and about how to communicate with people in the community, in our community, you know. And a little caveat too, in my community, I live in Ballantyne. Ballantyne, Desiree knows, Ballantyne in Charlotte is like the bougie part of Charlotte. Okay, it's where a lot of wealthy
community.
It
was a planned community. community for the wealthy.
A lot of wealthy people live here. I did not know that when we moved here. We just liked the fact that they had sidewalks. And
it's great, beautiful.
The schools were all close. The high school, the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school were all in close proximity, and there were sidewalks everywhere and lights across the street so we could walk and jog and run. That's all we considered. Those are the things we considered when we moved here. We didn't know about the rest of it. So in the community we live in, that's what we knew. So I just had to tell you that in my community. But in our community, it's become really much more diverse than it has been in the last 10 years. There's a lot of Indian people here. There's a lot of African people here now. I mean, you can come to Ballantyne now and hear like at least 7 to 8 different languages spoken. So in saying all this, what I'm saying is that my experience with the police has always been very cordial and very respectful until last year. And I had that incident, and that might have just been on the cusp of all this animosity between the police and the communities. And he was just probably having some kind of moment, I don't know. But it has caused and sparked something with me and the people that I know in the police force to have a different kind of dialogue, in the fact where I'm actually embedded into the fabric of their training program now.
Good.
Yeah, that's things that they need to know. Don't do that. Like, I mean, you should have known not to do that, but if they got to put it in the training for them to get it, well, there you go. Leading on to this question, though. So as a Black woman in America, do you feel valued, protected, safe, or respected? Do you feel that at all?
I will say I feel that way because those are the things that I feel about myself. I have never depended on the community or the society to define who I was and who I am. So overall, do I think women, Black women, have the respect of overarching of the society and the world? No. Do we still, we're on the 100th anniversary of being able to vote. 100 years is not very long for women being able to even vote. But as a Black woman, I feel all of those things because I don't seek it from the outside, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I agree with Ms. Desiree. I sure as hell don't feel it from nowhere else but me and my mama and my daddy. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I agree. I feel like outside world, no. Inside with my own people that your family and the friends you call family, that's where I find it. But if I had to go out in the world, I don't know about that. I don't know. Because sometimes I really don't think the Black woman is valued out in society at all. And I found that Black women are nurturers. Right. By nature, I found that a lot of they give back a lot, but they don't receive anything back. That's why sometimes I'm like, I don't know if they're valued. I value myself. I value my aunties. I value my mom. But outside world, I'm like you, Desiree. But that's one thing I think I had to learn too, was to value myself. Because at a young age, you're, just trying to go through life, that identity crisis I talked about. But I found it in our episode with Desiree. I remember she taught me wisdom, self-love and confidence.
Know your value. When you know who you are, you can, to me, it doesn't matter what you think about who I am and what I'm not. I know my value. And I am, I may go into the room and I may lower my voice a little bit, not because I don't know my value, but because I know that I have to do this in order to use my value, to because my goal in any room I walk into is to bring someone along with me and to be a change agent. And even if I'm in Walmart, I'm trying to make that line. We're gonna have a change in this line. This line is gonna be a good line, strong line, because I'm in it. It's gonna be good. So I don't care what you think about me, cashier. I'm coming one way. This is who I am, and I know it's great. And you are going to give me a receipt and my correct change. Thank you very much.
Period.
And that's just, so I think the world will begin to, I think what's happening is that we are coming upon an outward value of who we are, as women, as people, as Black women. And I think that the world is starting to respond accordingly, because we are now standing up and saying, no, you're not going to portray me like this. I'm going to make a
in the movies
like that, right? No. You're not going to have the business like this. We have a business like that. So we're starting to understand and appreciate and expect our value. So I see it as a tide turning. But we cannot continue to seek our value from any other place than within. And that's just period.
Yeah, and like you're talking about that, how would you like to see Black women portrayed in like entertainment or TV, film?
Thank you. Good question. I was just about to ask.
I love it. I love all the spectrum. I see myself, my alter egos, my cousins, my friends, my sorors. I see them all the time now, in film, in movies, in books. I think it would be a disservice to the community to only show one type of woman. We are a gamut. We all over the place. We English as second language speakers. We're WAP. We're all that. We're Michelle Obama. We're Kamala Harris. We Shanika. We all of that. And I honestly feel like I can turn on the TV and see myself and you guys and everyone else that I know at some point. I can laugh, I can cry. It's serious. I can listen to a podcast or a webinar, and I see myself. So I feel like it's better. I do.
Mm-hmm. I feel like definitely, like, especially the Black actresses are saying no to roles that are like the maid, like the stereotypical ones. You're gonna have them, like, yes, we know, like in crime shows, you're gonna have the Black girl who's sassier, like hard, like having a fugitive or something. I don't even know, those crazy ones that we all see. Or like the sassy Black girl, like we're all gonna see them. And do I love playing a sassy Black girl at times? Yes, I do. But do I want to play her all the time? No, I don't.
Right.
So that's the thing. I feel like they just need to find a balance, and they're doing a good thing. Fadeke, I want you to tell people how you felt about Hollywood, though. How you felt about it? Because I remember asking you, the one with like Queen Latifah, that show,
Ryan Murphy show.
I think so. I think it's the Hollywood one with Patti LuPone.
Because it was like they had like because I went into it, I don't know what I went into it thinking, but it just seemed like they were putting so many things into this show that I was like, oh my God. So there's a Black like struggle, there's a gay struggle, there's a mixed race struggle. And there were so many things shoved into this. And I was like, too much is happening. And then there was like this historical, like sort of background, but then some of it was fictional. And I was like, I feel like if they just made all of it fictional, maybe I would feel a little better about the show. But I feel like it was too much for me. Still a good show. Don't get me wrong. I love me some Ryan Murphy, but I just felt like that was a lot. That
to me, if it's historical, I get you have to portray the Black woman as like a certain way.
And then there was like
we
this
weren't allowed these things,
like,
and that's why I'd rather you show the truth of how we were like not given opportunities so people get it, instead of like you were saying how Hollywood kind of was like fictional and then real. It was like Black people were getting things, but in that time we didn't get anything like that.
Things like that.
So that's why I'm like, if it's gonna be old and like in the 50s or something like that, show the racial segregation, show that it was real. Don't try to make it something it wasn't. That's where I feel like people need to redo on that a little bit. Just a little bit.
But
I love seeing all the female produced things, you know, these mentioned Queen Latifah and Mary J. Blige, and people are coming together and they're putting their monies together and they're producing movies and films about, you know, Black women and Black stories, and they're doing it. And I love seeing that.
And I feel like that's why we see so, like, we're able to turn on the TV and see ourselves more, because the Black woman is portrayed as so many different types of Black women. And I feel like that's only happening because Black women are writing it and they're behind the table.
Right.
Like, so many of the shows that I connect to so much were like, what was it? Being Mary Jane, and like, what is it? Insecure, and pretty much anything Shonda Rhimes makes. So there's always a Black woman behind it. And that's why you need more diversity in the writers' rooms, because when there's not, then you just nonsense.
Get the stereotypical. We don't need that no more.
Yeah. And not to like, you know, rag on Shanika as you put her, because like, I mean,
but we still need that, because that's another side of us. We can still get like that.
Real, you know, there's just more than just Shanika.
Right.
Well, what do you guys think about how we're represented in music?
I feel like there are definitely amazing women who aren't in the forefront because they aren't flashy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that. I guess I would say the white demographic doesn't feel comfortable with them. You know what I mean? Like, because with Beyonce, I feel like even white people are like, she's mine. Like, she's my girl. You know what I mean? But when you listen to underground, just even women rappers or just women who are in the music industry, I'm like, their sound is so raw and so good. But unfortunately, I don't think they're gonna get to mainstream unless they basically rebrand themselves to whatever mainstream wants them to be. And that's the sad part, is we're gonna have to have more people of color in that industry leading the way and not letting mainstream basically like say this is the way you have to be a pop icon or be the next Beyonce or Ariana Grande. I know she's like, but she's still color, but you know what I mean? Like for me, I'm like, unfortunately, to be a person of color to break out, you kind of have to do the typical, I'm gonna, you know, it just, I don't like it. I wish that different styles could come out. Like reggae, like why can't we have a main person that is like a reggae person? You know what I mean? And not just like, oh, I know them and everybody doesn't know them.
Or
like,
they're really hot for like a couple months and then you're like, what happened to so-and-so?
Yes. Right. And they're only hot because there were like a TikTok song or they were like something, they like blew up and then it was only like one song and then you don't see them. But I'm like, but they're still producing stuff. Right. So the music industry is weird to me. I could go days on the music industry.
Well, because my husband's a DJ and I know like tons of music that's like underground and like back studio music, some that singles, things that aren't even released yet. And it's like from jazz to pop to like underground like music to like crazy new age music. And there's some really good stuff out there. But it's just like people don't hear it, and it's like what? And some really beautiful artists, like women of color, making some beautiful music, and they're singing some beautiful songs. And I'm just like, man, people just need to hear this. And I'm just like, this is a great mix. And I put it on my page, and I'm like, okay, I want to share it. And I like everyone share it. And if I share it with my 600 friends, and then they share it, then it gets out there, hopefully. But
yeah. And that's why it's good to listen to DJs, because they give you stuff, like,
my husband's always giving music away.
Shameless plug. Say shameless plug for your husband. Give us all the details.
Oh, give a shameless plug. Okay, it's DJ Paul Croom. He's on Facebook. He's on Mixcloud. It's DJ Paul Croom. That's it. It's his regular Facebook page is Paul Croom, but he also has ZJ Paul Croom Facebook. You can find him. He's so we're the opposite from your colorism. We're the opposite color. So he's light and I'm dark. So we're different. We're different. See, always we're the exception, not the rule. I'm telling you. I live it every day.
I'm gonna listen to it though. I'm gonna listen to his stuff. I do. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on point, and he's older than me. So you keep the exception, not the rule.
You know, all those stereotypes with women.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to date, especially as a Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
We can get into that too. But I want to ask you, how do you feel about what is happening in the world today? Like with the movement, do you feel like it's just basically, is the movement different, or will it just be another time in our history where we speak up and then nothing happens, or does it feel different?
Well, I'm going to say that it feels different.
Yeah,
I just completed a 6-week diversity and inclusion work group for the organization that I work for. That work group was comprised of diverse employees from across our system and across departments. And it was literally put together because right after the George Floyd incident, however, the organization literally asked, how do you feel and what can we do better? And I was privileged to facilitate a 6-week conversation that ended in a list of recommendations from the employees going to senior management about what the organization can do better. And I cannot name one time in my lifetime of work that I've ever been asked, just as a Black person, how something truly made me feel, and then asked, what can I do better? Never. So to be a part of a process in that way feels to me like there is hope. Like, right. I've never been asked, how do you feel? And really, we want to know what we can do better. Right. Normally you get a statement or you don't talk about it at all. You just go to work mad, but you smile. Right. And you talk about it with your coworkers in your little spaces. Then you go back to work and you code switch and everything's great. So every time I look and I see the signs that are being held and they're being held by a majority white crowd or a mixed race crowd, that's different. Mm-hmm. That's different. I don't know. I feel it different this time than.
I want to caveat on what Desiree's saying, because for me it's been the same, and I'm being a woman of a certain age. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that flow of energy that's coming from this movement that's a lot different. My new workplace is new, but the military culture is a whole other kind of, it's a counterculture to the counterculture of a counterculture. And it's that even in itself. I have been invited to speak on 3 panels regarding race and gender in the military in the last 6 weeks, I think 6 to 7 weeks.
And that's big.
So that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm retired, so I'm not even active duty anymore. So that's a big deal. And those are things like when I was towards the end of my retirement, was right in the middle of all that issues with women's issues in the military, women's health, and all of that going on. And now I literally can't even, every time I check my email, there's somebody asking me to go to San Antonio, go to DC, could I come talk about treating women? I was in medicine too when I was in the military, and I quit medicine to do social work. So it's a whole different ball game for me. It's a huge thing for me. It's really impactful for me, actually, because the military culture it's really oppressive. for Black women. For me, it was in many different ways. Luckily for me, I'm smart, and I'm not smart in just intelligence, but clever smart. So being clever and using your mind to be creative and find ways to find your niche and use that to promote yourself in a system that doesn't allow people to do that, to get noticed and to find great leaders to encourage you and to build you up and to put you out there in the military is unheard of. So I had leadership that would literally drag me through things, drag me and take me to school and send me to school. And these things that I went through, I'm telling you guys, I am the exception and I'm not the rule. The things that I had experienced, nurses, doctors, radiologists, I was in nuclear medicine. These people took me from programs and put me other places because of the things that I was doing, because of my cleverness. They saw something in me and then they were like, I'm going to take you from here and put you here. And wasn't even in the rank to be in this position. I didn't have the rank to be in this position. And having that savvy, their savvy, because of my cleverness, allowed me to progress in a really positive way and learn and go to school. And they sent me to all these schools and do all this stuff. So the train that I'm riding right now with all these invites and everything is just phenomenal considering where I came from. So yes, absolutely, Desiree, I totally agree with you.
And you feel like they're really listening. Like I don't feel like they're asking because it's the right thing to do. I really feel like people are asking because they really want to know. They really want to know.
They really want to know how to change. They said, you've been here. We've listened to you. We've seen you grow. We saw all the things you changed and the influences you've made before you tried to make. We want to know what you did or what you could implement. We want to hear your ideas. Like, really? Like literally, I'm sitting back going like that shy girl in elementary school when Miss and Senora Maria grabbed my arm and said, how dare you speak Spanish in my class, grabbed my arm. I'm sitting there crouching down going, seriously, really? Like that? That's really how I'm responding to these emails because I'm like, are you punking me? Is somebody gonna come around like, I got you, huh? What's really going on? But as more and more of them came in, I was like, this is amazing. Like, these people really want to know. They really want to see something different, even in the military culture. And I'm like, that's something, because like I said, the military culture is something unlike any other. It's even, I don't even know how to explain it. You have to experience it to really fully understand it.
Yeah. For Fadeke, how do you feel about the movement and how the times are?
I feel like because we're in this pandemic and so many people are stuck at home, and for the longest time, I think sports just got back. Jodi, I'm not a sports person, but sports just got back, right? So everyone is in this, I feel, and I was talking to my parents about this when the pandemic first started. I was like, it feels like this leveler where it doesn't matter what color you are, how much money you have, anyone can get really sick from this, from COVID-19. And I feel like it put us all in a really different mindset, and we were all just sitting pretty much at home. And to see this man literally get killed by someone who's supposed to protect everyone, and you couldn't really turn away from it. I feel like everyone was in the right mindset to say, oh, that's not okay. So I feel like that's why, or maybe that's one of the reasons why it's different this time, because I personally feel, I'm only 23, but I remember being 17 or 18. I don't even remember how old I was when in Chicago, they were protesting for Laquan McDonald. And I'm pretty sure my mom didn't let me go out and protest, but I wanted to. But I remember watching the news, and my best friend Blake was on TV, and she was protesting 16 shots in a cover up because they killed this Black boy, and it was the police. And I'm pretty sure the mayor like covered it up and stuff like that. But it was like a week or something of like coverage over the news and everything. And then it just sort of like goes away. And the same thing I felt with like Trayvon Martin. And I just feel like so many people of like different backgrounds are standing with us now. Like you saw the Polynesians doing the haka for George Floyd, and the Mennonites were out. My mom was like, girl, did you see the Amish? I was like, girl, they're Mennonites. But like, she's like, I have never seen them out there with signs saying Black Lives Matter. We are in a really different, I just like, you know me with energies. The energy has shifted. We're in a different time right now. So I think it is very different this time.
Mm-hmm. It is. So last question of the night, y'all. We got here. We did it. So what does being a Black woman mean to you? And how would you like others to view and treat Black women? I know you have it. I know you have it, Desiree. I see your face.
I don't always have it, but I have it.
I know you have it.
This is, my lens, my experience. I think Black women are not to be feared. They are, just don't fear them. Their strength is a part of their DNA. We are the descendants of the survivors of the slave trade. Strength is in our DNA. It's not anything that we condemn, turn off, make low. It's really, that's not natural for us. So don't fear the Black woman. Seek to understand her, embrace her energy, and you will be the better for it.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Always speaking wisdom. Desiree, always speaking wisdom. Enid, do you have something to say or to add to that?
That was really good, Desiree. My husband says that Black women, mine is peace. And in me, he finds peace because I bring peace to him, peace and comfort. And if people allow conversations to happen and allow the communication to happen, you can find peace from us because we are really good communicators. So let us be that. Let us help you with that because we are really good at that. Black women are really good at helping you find that little bit of hope, that little bit of joy, and hopefully some peace.
Yeah, love that. Fadeke, last closing. Closing out, girl.
Closing out, girl.
Oh, I feel the pressure. Okay.
I know, right?
Black women are truly magical, and their strength is something that should not be taken advantage of. That's what I got. Was that good, Jodi?
Mic drop.
That's what I got.
Yes. And on that note, everybody, that is episode 10. What she said. Mic drop. Thank you so much for coming on. I adore all of you, and I love you all so much for giving your time and just like letting everybody know what it's like growing up as a Black woman. It's hard, but Black women prevail, okay? And we're here to stay, and we're not going anywhere.
Nowhere.
Phenomenally.
Okay, say it, girl.
Period.
Oh, superwoman.
There we go. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful night, and I'll
Nice
see
to
you
see
here
you
for
all.
episode 11, everybody. Bye.